Although many times seen as separate from rural historic districts, or forgotten because they are often invisible, archaeological resources may be an integral aspect of many landscapes. Archaeological resources may be related to an area of significance. They may provide additional and/or complementary information about an area. They may provide depth to the understanding of the full human use of a particular place through time, or they may define the landscape and/or support additional areas of significance. Archaeological resources might actually be the landscape. Many landscape studies are interdisciplinary in design and implementation because evidence of land use is often preserved above and below ground. A comprehensive study of the landscape might include examining structures or above-ground artifacts, historical documents, material objects, topographic features, living plants, and oral traditions, as well as archaeological resources. Archaeologists who study the landscape to learn about a particular theme often employ methods and analysis techniques from anthropology, history, cultural geography, material cultural studies, oral history, folklore, architectural history, landscape architecture, ethnobotany, and garden history. What do landscape archaeologists look for? Physical evidence of land use over time. The types of evidence sought vary according to the scale and focus of a particular study. Significant features may include physical evidence of earth-moving activities such as terracing or landfill practices, vegetation patterns, field systems, drainages, ditches, and fence lines, tree planting holes or garden beds that appear as stains in the soil, walkways and roads, evidence of deforestation, changes in yard surface or changes in land use practices over time, foundations, depressions, graves, trash dumps, and archaeobotanical remains. Some ways archaeological evidence adds to our understanding of landscapes is through archaeological remains of early homesteading sites such as foundations, trash dumps, and archaeobotanical remains may illuminate the pattern of structures and settlements of the land. Archaeological evidence of early trail systems in the form of distinct vegetation patterns might help us understand the ways in which an area was accessed and/or settled by Native American groups, settlers, and early explorers. The above and below ground structural remains of railroads and canals may illustrate the evolution of technology. For instance, the engineering of trains, railroads, and canals through rugged mountainous terrain often involved technological innovations and transfers that became the national standard. The above and below ground remains of industrial sites. This might involve examining how an industrial district modified the land and may contain the remains of several key components such as landforms, buildings, structures, objects, and transportation networks. Archaeological resources may provide evidence of human use of a particular landscape over thousands of years, tying communities, groups, families, and even individuals to particular places. For example, Native American sacred landscapes, many of which have been used for hundreds and even thousands of years, are still used today as traditional cultural properties. Such a landscape might also include evidence of land use before contact with Europeans in the form of domestic campsites, processing stations, trail systems leading between different types of sites, for instance from a domestic camp to a sacred site, and to sacred areas. The archaeological resources of a watershed area may illustrate the use of particular resources or a geographic area through time. For example, the Native American use of an area as a corridor of human travel, trade, or resource procurement, as well as Euro-American use of the same area, which may include settlement, construction of dams and/or reservoirs, and logging. Adding time depth adds perspective to the interpretation of significance of particular resources. Often archaeology is the only way to examine time depth in a landscape. Archaeologists are trained to survey landscapes with both pre-contact and post-contact periods in mind, and may be able to suggest resources that exist below the surface. Being able to see certain subsurface resources come from experience in archaeological survey and in knowing how pre-contact peoples lived. Archaeologists may be able to pick out subtle changes in the landscape and provide ideas about what might be there that is not visible to the untrained eye. Without a firm grasp of this type of sequencing, we could not adequately deal with issues of behavioral processes, evolution, and rates of change in past human cultures. Time depth allows for the development of cohesive chronologies for exploring regional, social, and cultural evolution through time. Landscape is a primary context for human behavior. The recognition of its importance as cultural artifacts speak to the importance of landscape to our understanding of both the past and the present. Archaeological landscapes are significant for several reasons. Archaeology provides morphological and environmental data on early landscapes that are available nowhere else. Landscape studies touch on many concerns of contemporary archaeology, including issues of gender, ethnicity, multiculturalism, and the construct of the past. And landscape archaeology can be closely linked to the interests of preservation groups and historical societies. Archaeologists have used a landscape approach for decades. Those studying pre-contact periods have long been interested in environmental studies, settlement patterns, and interpretive approaches to the landscape, while archaeologists studying post-contact periods have excavated gardens since the 1930s for the purpose of restoration and reconstruction. Since the 1970s and 80s, however, archaeologists have broadened their scope, breadth, and theoretical perspectives of landscape archaeology. While the formal garden of the elites initially were the focus of post-contact archaeological landscape studies, today landscape archaeology consists of pre-contact period landscapes, urban landscapes, the agricultural or rural landscapes, the industrial landscape, battlefield, African American landscapes, and the landscape at the point of contact between Native Americans and Europeans, among others. Within North American post-contact archaeology, the study of the landscape has coalesced into a distinct specialization particularly concerned with addressing the landscape as a culturally constructed artifact. Landscape archaeologists who study this period endeavor to reconstruct and interpret the historical and cultural meaning of past landscapes from the time of contact between Europeans and Native Americans to the present day. Landscape archaeologists use a variety of techniques and methods to reconstruct environmental conditions and land use. Paleobotany is used to recover and interpret the remains of long-vanished plants and trees. Pollen analysis offers clues about earlier environments. Phyllolithic pollen and microflora remains may reveal what plants were grown or used on a site. For this reason, flotation and soil sampling are standard practices in landscape projects. Tree coring and modern vegetation surveys are frequently used to discover modern survival of historic plants, while casts of root cavities are used to identify tree species. Chemical analysis of archaeological soils, such as phosphates and pH testing, are used to reconstruct earlier soil conditions. Geographical information systems and other computer simulations have the potential to help archaeologists recreate and visualize landscapes over time and space.